Hi viewers, I'm Jerson. This is NDBaker93. Let's tell a story. This episode is actually going to be pretty different. We are actually reaching out to someone named Lucia, who our friend Nick just happened to meet last night. Um, he went to a wedding of a friend, and while he was there, he was um, at the reception and speaking with the people at the table that he was at. He started talking about tumo slang and how it's a nomenclature for social life. I talked with him a little bit, and he basically explained how you're really into the idea of tumo slang. So a couple of the things from that I've really been able to take away from tumo slang have really been defining, figuring out, spending time actually working on my life rather than in it. For me personally, I just kept spending a lot of time creating uh, these. I kept putting my life in a place where I would um, get into something and then just start doing it. And I would do it really well. Like I'd put a lot of effort into, for example, I spent about 7 months working at this construction company in North Kingston, and I spent a lot of time working in that space, not really thinking about why it was so why it was useful to me, why I was there, what I was trying to get out of being there. I was just looking for a way to make money, and that was it. There wasn't any further aspect to it. And what I've really been picking up by working by with Tumo slang is the fact that I have the ability to work on my life as well. And what that means is that I'm able to take time separate from those systems, so separate from trying to advance the preconceived goals that I put on myself, like making X amount of dollars, or spending this much time with my mom, or anything, to really thinking about what I want as an end goal, like what is a result that I really want out of my life. And that's one of the biggest things that it has really about Tumo slang that has really changed my perspective on how I deal with my life, because I've been able to um, really start to objectively look at what I want and where I'm going. And it really it simplifies the whole process really well. The nomenclature does, because I like to just call it vocabulary, but it simplifies the process of trying to um, discover yourself. So try to see who you are into a simple way that doesn't have a lot of fluff in it. And that's what I really like, is the fact that just by working in the aspects, like there's this concept called the business of the self that really focuses on what you want out of your life in the areas of like health and dreams and careers, and a few others uh, areas as well. But I had never really spent the time to write down these things, or try and define my goals in a way that was understandable even just to myself. I really would just, anytime somebody asked me a question that was related to that stuff, I would just kind of make something up based on what I was doing currently in the past like week or couple of weeks, and not really having some sort of an idea of a larger story, but not really ever putting making it something concrete. One of the biggest things that I've taken from the ideas expressed in the vocabulary and in the ideas of Tumo slang is how to the fact that you can't properly love someone if you don't know what they want for themselves. One of the biggest things in Tumo slang is the idea that respect means no interference. Respect means no interference, as in you will not interfere with another person's goals, ideas. But the only way to do so properly is to know what they are. But one of the biggest issues is that most people don't know what their ideals are. They've never thought about them or formalized them or put any um, deeper thought into them. They've just done what I said earlier, just made it up as they were going along. And that's really helped me, like, with developing my relationships with my friends. Like, I have a really good friend, Shira, who I had spent a lot of time with, but I had never thought to ask her what she really paying attention to what her ideals are, to what she is trying to reach for, and figuring out how to help her. Um, and it's made our bond stronger because I've learned more about, for example, like her feelings towards her family and what she wants versus how uh, her relationship is with them currently, and just being able to like like really understand what she wants has helped me just to be able to listen to her properly and support her in the ways that she needs. And I couldn't have I didn't even really know that I could help in this way until I understood how important knowing another person's ideals were. Um, yeah, that's one of the biggest things I've gotten from Tumo Slang so far. Oh, and another thing, Lucia, another big thing for me at least was the idea that focus means say no. I always when I first watched the video of Ifani, um, and him and Nick kind of went into that concept, it honestly gave me goosebumps.
If I was to talk to my son in first grade, tell him what focus is.
He's right here. Look at him. Focus on your son and explain to him what focus means. Look at him. Keep your eyes on him. Your facial expression is not from a father to a son. You need to wear your father hat right now. And you have to show that your facial expression is for your son, not for me.
All right, one second.
Dad, what focusing means?
I'll see. Doing something, completing the task without distraction. I don't know. I can't explain that.
Okay. Now you see why most people fail to focus. Not because they don't want to, but because they don't understand the concept. Therefore, they fail to practice. Thank goodness we had Steve Jobs. In 1997, I believe that's the year, he stood in front of his company with almost all of his engineers, and You know Steve Jobs, of
Mhm.
course. And he explained to his engineers what focus means and how to practice it. And that is what I would go by. Focusing, that means say no. To everything else.
Doesn't that still apply to immerse yourself to one
He got
specific thing? If
really
you
close, I
immerse
think,
yourself to something, that
when he
means you
said
That's not saying no.
that thing about completing a task with no
you should say
distraction.
no to anything else.
Yes.
Self to yourself to one specific thing. If you immerse yourself to something, that means you.
That's not saying no.
You should say no to anything else.
Yes.
Mm. I see.
And the reason why he had this conversation because I speculate that half of his engineers hated him for changing his mind. And that's why he explained to them, I'm saying no because the company has to focus on this, but not that. That's why I had to say no to that. Even though I understand that you guys put in a lot of effort for that, but we are focusing on this. Until you know how to practice the art of saying no, you don't know how to practice focusing for the things that you're trying to concentrate on.
That's deep. That's deep.
The reason why you heard a long pause,
Oh, okay. This
a
is the
big
start
silence from me.
of the next video.
Yes, sir. Before you said that's deep. Because I was practicing respect of reciprocation.
It's a lot of willpower to be able to focus.
Yes, sir.
Right. Especially because it seems like nobody believes in each other. And so when you try to focus on what some consider to be an impossible task, they do everything they can to distract you. When I first watched the video of Ifani, and him and Nick kind of went into that concept, it honestly gave me goosebumps because I had always looked at focus as a method, a I'd always looked at focus as more of a positive thing of this is what you're doing now, and that is it's like a useful way partially to focus on something, at least for me, because it would give me an initial feeling, like an initial push to look at something and do it. But then it didn't have any of the aspects at least in my mind, the concept didn't have any of the aspects of disregarding other information. And so when I first heard them go through that and talk a lot about the idea that that once you discover your ideals, once you discover what you're going for, everything else is secondary. Understanding the ways in which I can, by ignoring certain bits of information and ignoring certain distractions, I can improve my life significantly because I continue to take action on the projects and events that are most important and relevant to my life, has really shaped a lot for me. For example, have gotten I'm currently a salesman. I sell Cutco, which is all like kitchen knives stuff for like families, and like cooking, all of that sort of thing. And I had been getting distracted, focusing on the job, but then also looking looking for ways out, looking for alternatives, backups, things that would maybe give me some sort of a security or safeguard. But me spending that time looking for my next potential was actually me wasting my chance at the current thing I was working on, my current job. And so when I realized that I was doing that, instead I decided to take all that time that I was using for uh, thinking about my next step to just completely dive into the realm of being a salesman and dive into learning how to actually help people through my work. And then since then, things have completely changed. I went from making no sales at all to I just got two in a row. And I'm getting more and more appointments just because of how fervently I've been putting my time and effort into my job. And that really, I've been able to grow tremendously because of that. Because one of the things that I do now that I didn't do before is whenever I'm working, like for example, if I'm doing appointments, if I'm making phone calls, if I'm working for my job, I am constantly thinking, what is the point of what I'm doing? Why is this furthering what I want or not? Because I wasn't doing that before. I was just trying without uh, like a real understanding of what I was doing, and that has really improved my life considerably. Uh, I hope that was interesting to you. It's been an interesting journey over the past for the past month and a half or so that I've been implementing these ideas and techniques. Tumo slang has been helping me to heal my relationship with my mother. We were at odds for a while um, because now I realize our ideals were in different places. Um, I didn't understand what she wanted from me and or what she wanted from her life. And because of that, I wasn't able to um, connect properly with her. Instead, I was basically just completely focusing on what I wanted out of my life and then occasionally telling her what I was doing, regardless of whether or not, without any intention as to whether that information would be um, well received or not. And that caused a lot of tension in between us because I am in the stage of my life where I'm developing and I have had many different projects. But in her eyes, that was every time I looked at a project, I went into it, and then I decided that it wasn't for me. That was me uh, wasting time, and also not offering, not not acting to secure my future. Um, and now, because I've stopped, because what I was doing before was not really being totally honest with her all the time. I was just going and doing my things and telling her what she wanted to hear so that I could um, continue acting alone. And now I've realized that uh, the reason that she was getting upset isn't because she didn't want me to uh, go and act and do the things that I wanted, but because she didn't want me to do it alone. And now I see that, like, the only way for me to truly love her, and the only way for me to truly connect with her, is to understand that what she wants is to feel like she's there and a part of my life, and that um, I'm actively and intelligently moving towards a better future. And now that I know that, I can actually, like, I've been, and we're still, we're things are still shaky sometimes, but um they've been so much better lately because of the fact that um I can, because I know what she wants, and I can show her now how what I'm doing is in fact in line with what she wants, and not um, a waste of my time or a waste of hers. And that has really helped us to start moving more together than we were before. Going into the vocabulary of Tamil slang, um, what I did in and what I'm doing and what I just talked about is I went and learned about my mother's business of the self. I learned about the aspects of her, of what she wanted for her future, which I didn't know before. And then I was able to bring in the second concept, which is respect. And respect means no interference. That means being able to take a step back and allow someone to reach, and help someone to reach for their ideals, for their goals. So before, I didn't know my mom's ideals, which means I couldn't respect them. And I was able to learn what they were. And because of that, I was able to begin to respect them. And that is what is helping us to come closer together. Thank you for listening, Lucia. I hope this video is interesting to you.